You're trapped in a room. Forced to fight to the death, you must use your wits and strengths to survive. Pause. This premise you've probably heard a million times or some variation of it. An ordinary guy somehow walks into a random area and is suddenly involved in a death game. All the guys around him are fucking wilding, and there's always that yandere that's crazy for the main character. But wait, before you click away from the video, I want you to think to yourself, what is the point of this story? What makes these types of shows so popular? Well, buckle in, cause in this video, we're gonna take a look at the never-ending rabbit hole that is the death game genre. Death games are bad. Whoa, hold up. I'm not saying that I don't enjoy these types of shows because I fucking love them. What I mean is that the quality of writing in most of these series are pretty lackluster. You see, as someone like myself who's gone down the rabbit hole of what is the death game genre, I can confidently say that I'm pretty well versed in these types of shows. Starting with Mirai Nikki and ultimately transitioning to the King's Game manga, I've probably read over 50 death game mangas in the span of a year. I was so hooked onto the genre that I basically did nothing other than go to school and read. Like seriously, my social life was pretty fucked. That being said, even though you as the viewers might not be able to relate to my experiences, I'm sure you've all wondered why these shows are so popular. I can already hear most people watching the video taking a good hard look at Yuno Gasai and questioning what humanity has become. But hear me out. Even if these shows may not appeal to you, there's always going to be a reason as to why people love these types of shows, and I'm going to try to convince you to give this genre a chance. We good? Well, for starters, as someone who is a firm believer of if you like the show, that's all that matters, it becomes pretty easy to see why I would enjoy these types of shows. There's non-stop action, overpowered characters, and dead bodies flying left and right. While I may usually enjoy a deep, thoughtful series like Violet Evergarden or A Silent Voice, sometimes I just want to turn off my brain and watch some shit unfold. Sometimes, you just want to watch a power-hungry character conquer the world, or watch some guy film a murder. I mean, create the beautiful art that is filmmaking. Hashtag please don't demonetize. The big appeal of these shows is that the main character is usually a weak character that doesn't have many redeeming qualities other than holding the ultimate weapon that is plot armor. And yes, I know, while most viewers are probably like, this main character sucks, the fact that this is the standard layout for most MCs is genius. You see, the big appeal of these shows is the escapism. The fact that we are able to put ourselves into the shoes of the main character and view the story as if we are in it is something that these stories do very well. Is the main reason as to why whenever you go to the comment section of a death game manga, you're either gonna get someone talking about how they love the concept, or you're gonna get a comment saying something like, if I was in the main character's spot, I wouldn't be such a bitch. And yeah, while it is easy to view the story through a third lens, just imagining yourself in a hyperbolic situation is something that we all do. It's what makes zombie apocalypses so popular. We all think to ourselves, what's the best possible way to survive? How do we act? Where do we go? This chain of continuous thought leads us into a different world than reality. Sometimes escapism is the best medicine for a relaxing read. And going off the same coin, realistic stories can be good as well. But hyperbolic situations that would never happen in real life, such as competing in a virtual death game or playing Pokemon with humans, is something that only these stories can pull off. We watch as a realistic person is placed in an unrealistic situation and begin to think to ourselves, what would happen? We are literally watching people in extreme situations and enjoying it. But nonetheless, if you like it, then you like it. I'm not gonna judge, and I definitely don't care if you like a shit series. We all have our tastes, and as long as people understand that these are works of fiction and that these actions would never translate to the real world, I think that we can all come to a mutual understanding of each other. But enough with the analysis. Let's get to the real part of the video and the reason why you're probably all here. Earlier in the video, I said I was going to convince you guys to give this death game genre a chance, and to do this, I'm going to give you some recommendations. But it's not just your typical top 10 saturated content you see all over YouTube. To get deep into the recommendations, we need to create the ultimate tier list. You see, this genre compared to others is quite different. In most series, when the quality of writing and the rating is low, you probably have a sense that the show is bad. However, for death games, the lower the rating, the more of a guilty pleasure the series becomes. I can't tell you how many 5 out of 10 series I've come across and enjoyed. Basically, each story lies on a spectrum, with guilty pleasure being on the very left and good writing at the far right. And let's be real here, I assure you that there's definitely people who agree with me on this. So with that out of the way, when I recommend these series, just keep in mind, do you want a good read with lots of psychological aspects, or do you just want to turn off your brain and see some random shit unfold? Or do you want to see a mix of both? Without further ado, let's get right into the tier list. First and foremost, since there's like zero death game anime, this list will be majority manga with some anime adaptations being added. Most of these series are way too gory for anime to adapt, which is the reason why the only death game anime you've probably heard of is Mirai Nikki, Elfen Lied, and Gleipnir. Starting at the top of the list, with a whopping 8.4 rating on Mal, Liar Game comes in as my go-to read for a psychological inducing manga. The premise is good, the characters are fantastic, and each game they introduce is as interesting as the previous one. If you love strategy games, I would definitely suggest checking this series out. But enough with the good writing. If you want a mix of good characters, average writing, and a ton of death games back to back, then look no further than As the Gods Will. Basically, all high school students across the globe must compete in death games controlled by a supernatural being until there is only one person remaining. For me, if I were to choose any series on this list to recommend, it would definitely be As the Gods Will. The writing is okay, but who reads death games for the writing anyways? What really shines about As the Gods Will is that it is probably the most satisfying death game out there. Chapter after chapter, they keep throwing content in our faces and the hype train never stops. All the characters are so likable, and I find myself cheering for everyone to survive. Also, for anyone who's already read the series, chapter 109 was so fucking hype. The culmination and build-up of all the events was absolutely insane. For the next series, a bit lower on my list is Future's Diary. Personally, I didn't enjoy Future's Diary as much because in my opinion, it was stuck in a weird position between do I want to be a degenerate or do I want to have good writing, and it never really got anywhere. However, I know a lot of people enjoyed the series, which is why I still think it's a good recommendation. Next, I'll recommend these two series together because I'm fully convinced that one copied the other. The two series at question is none other than Darwin's Game and Battle in 5 Seconds After Meeting. Basically, if you want a super smart main character that's not a douche, here's your go-to story. Both main characters are super likable and act cautious and thoughtful in their respective stories. The reason why I slot these two stories together is basically because they seem like actual clones of each other. Like no joke, these are a carbon copy. I haven't seen this much of a resemblance since the Asterix War and Chivalry of a Failed Knight aired back in 2015. Those two shows were so fucking similar. Basically, the story revolves around being assigned a superpower after taking part in a death game. To survive, you must use your wits and make the best out of your own given superpower. The reason why the show is so appealing is that both characters don't start off with the strongest powers and actually have to think in order to survive. Personally, I would place Darwin's Game slightly ahead of Battle in 5 Seconds just because I like the characters more. But if you enjoyed one series, I would definitely suggest you to check the other out. Darwin's Game already has an anime that came out in 2020, and Battle After 5 Seconds is getting an anime adaptation next season, which I definitely will be on the lookout for. Next, we have the OG Battle Royale manga named, well, Battle Royale. I know, it's straight to the point, right? It's not like all those long, light novel titles that you hear everyone meme about. If you don't mind a lot of backstories and 2000 manga art, then this manga should be right up your alley. Basically, this story is about a high school class trapped on an island, forced to participate in a battle royale facilitated by the government. Hold up, what's that? An actual title that tells you what the story's about? Who would have thought? I'm sure most of you have already seen the live action version of Battle Royale since it's way more popular than the manga, but if possible, I definitely suggest you to check the source out. Next, we make our way to the guilty pleasure area and introduce King's Game. For some good news, the series actually did get adapted into an anime, though the quality was pretty lackluster. For the story though, there are 3 separate mangas all pertaining to the same timeline: King's Game Origin, King's Game, and King's Game Extreme. As I stated earlier, this was the first death game manga I read, and though it's definitely not the best piece of work, it was a pretty fun read. For anyone who is interested, the story is about a group of classmates carrying out duties from a mysterious king. If they don't fulfill the orders, they die. And though I didn't really get attached to any of the characters, something about the story just made me want to know what's going to happen next, and I ended up finishing all 3 manga super quickly. Now beware. As we go deeper into the world of death games, we come across the infamous manga DeathTube. Let me preface by saying that this manga is definitely not for everyone. It can be best described through this top review I found on my anime list. So far, I have read a total of 6 chapters and only 3 letters stay pinpointed in my head. What the fuck? Let's get down to business. If you dislike heavy gore, extreme nudity, and hate deaths in general, then I would advise you to never ever read this manga. On the other hand, if you enjoy them, then oh boy are you in for a treat. Basically, the story is about a guy named Machia who accidentally joined the world of DeathTube along with a girl named Mashiro. In this world, to survive, you need to create videos that garner a lot of views. Since violence and nudity seems to grab a lot of attention, these are mainly the top videos on the platform. Now I know what you're all thinking. This plot sounds exactly like YouTube, and while this may be the case, I prefer the series to be called YouTube in the Underground Market. Also, if you guys thought Yuno Gasai was a crazy yandere, then you probably haven't seen Mashiro. She's fucking insane, and this series is definitely not for everyone. On a more lighthearted note comes the next series, Real Account. Have you ever thought to yourself, man, I really like Sword Art Online, but I wish they would spend more time trapped in the game? Well, look no further than Real Account, as a group of social media users are all transported into a virtual world where they have to compete in death games to live. To summarize, if you die in the game, you die in real life. Surprisingly enough, this series was actually really good, and since most of the games are social media oriented, this means that you have to use your knowledge of other people to beat the games. It's not just brute force action, rather you have to think analytically. The characters are fucking lit, and I always find myself getting hyped whenever something cool happens in the story. At this moment in time, Real Account is over 200 chapters long, and I still don't see it ending anytime soon, so if you like the plot of SAO, then I would strongly suggest you to check this series out. Pause. Hyacinth from the future here. After writing the script, I knew that this video was going to be too long, so I'll just quickly add the rest of the series onto the tier list here, and you guys can look them up later. Honorable mentions are Alice in Borderland, Werewolf Game, Tomodachi Game, and Ore no Genjutsu. Actually, on second thought, this gave me a new idea, and I might just create a top 10 manga you should read in the future, and just add the series in there. I know you've definitely seen those videos on your feed, and since they're so popular, who knows, I might just hit the jackpot with the algorithm. But for now, these are the 7 series I'd recommend to get into the death game genre. And for the other series, maybe I'll talk about them in the future. But before I end the video, I need to let you all know that I'm planning on doing a face reveal and Q&A for my next video. I want to thank you all for 1,300 subscribers, and if you have any questions, comment down below to be in the next video. If you love these types of videos, make sure to subscribe and share this video and channel with other people. It's the best way to help me grow. I appreciate every single one of my subscribers, and I'll keep on providing the well-edited content. That's all for this video. Next week, you'll see what's hiding under my Miyamoto Musashi avatar after my face reveal, and it's going to be awesome. This has been Hyacinth. Peace.